With there being 80 days until Brexit, or 80 days 11 hours at time of recording, there are a number of things that need to be dealt with, one of which includes the fishing issues. I say this because very recently a memo was accidentally released. This memo was earmarked from the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, which discussed media stories, was accidentally sent to the BBC. The word accident seems to have the word, for me, doubt, written in my mind. I can't imagine why. Now, the memo that was sent to them detailed a level of uncertainty at our capacity to patrol our waters in the event of a no deal. It states that there are only 12 ships to monitor a space roughly 3 times the size of the surface of the United Kingdom. That's not to say that we can't do it, though, with 12 ships. It's just a judgment call that we might not be able to, because in the event of a no deal, the common fisheries policy that we are currently signed up to, which France and I believe Spain would like some renegotiation over, France especially, to help us get a deal across the line, that is, in the first place, would probably try to fish in our waters. I think, if they do, we blow them out of the water. I'm also going to state now I am not a supporter of the common fisheries policy, and I thought I'd detail why. The CFP is a set of rules that all EU member states agree to, member states, on where countries can fish and how much fish they can catch within a year, and what to do, which is the part I take issue with excess fish. So if you go over your quota, you have to dump all the dead fish you now have back into the ocean. My view is, catch it, sell it. Of course, we need sustainable, but if you're dumping them dead anyway, there's nothing sustainable about it. It's why I do support the increase in efforts to create fish farms. I know Scotland has been doing that, and I think it's a fantastic idea. But I do not support the idea of going over your quota and having to dump it. I think perhaps being a little more reasonable with how you are paying attention to what you are catching is a better idea. And allowing other nations to fish in our waters depletes our own fish stocks, which I think is another issue that needs to be addressed. We cannot sustain what we have if everyone else is coming here and taking it. It can't regenerate, it can't regrow, and therefore we all eventually lose out because of a set of rules that do not take into account the ability of the fish to then breed and regrow. The CFP does not take this into account. Before anyone says they do, you are deluded. As a response to this, Michael Gove said there would be a government support fund to help businesses in the event of no deal. How on earth this is relevant, I have no idea, but I love the fact that he managed to shift the goals a little bit. We leave on the 31st of October with or without a deal, provided we believe Boris when he says this. Cabinet ministers believe that this 12 ships to enforce 3 times the surface space of the UK to patrol it so that the French don't come steal their fish can be done. I tend to think so as well. I tend to think we can do that. 12 ships doesn't sound like much, but we haven't specified what kind of ships they are. So as to provide greater context, I'm going to read a little excerpt from the note itself, where it reads, "While our public position on this wider issue is already clear and widely communicated, in that post-Brexit we will be an independent coastal state with control of our waters, unless France wants to renegotiate it. Both policy and the Ministry of Defence have indicated we are not on an overly strong footing to get ahead of the potential claims that could arise from this story. At this stage, there is a lot of uncertainty about the sufficiency of enforcement in a no deal, because we have 12 vessels that need to monitor a space 3 times the size of the surface area of the UK. Admiral Lord West, a Labour peer and former First Sea Lord, has said that the UK has insufficient assets to patrol and look after our exclusive economic zone for fisheries. I will take what he says and believe him to an extent. I think we can do it. It will just be very, very difficult unless we know what kind of ships we've got and what will be used and where they'll be positioned. I think it's very important we listen to experts, and he certainly qualifies. So I would not take away from what he says. We have been for years cutting back on our naval presence. So now I think we need to invest a little, which is where the preparation fund for no deal comes into effect. Perhaps those same ships that will be patrolling our waters could also do me a solid and stop those little dinghies from getting across the channel. They always arrive in my town, And when those people run into a forest roughly the size of, 3 square meters and think they're hidden, it's quite amusing. I should also reference that this is all tied into something called Operation Kingfisher. Cringy title. Just telling you now. You should be ashamed of yourselves. I might go into what Operation Kingfisher is tomorrow, maybe, but I might talk about Caroline Lucas wanting an all-female panel first. Because women solve all problems, and that's a topic for another time. It'll be interesting to see how this progresses. There are a lot of issues already arising under Boris Johnson's premiership. That means we'll have lots of content for this channel. Fantastic.